Looking for a way to make Jeep Grille wall art? Well, in this video, I'll explain everything you need to get started. Also, how long it took me, the money spent, resources used, and tips to help you along your journey. This video will be split up into 7 sections, so sit back and follow along. Starting off, we need to disassemble our grille. Make sure you responsibly lay out all the parts so you know where to find them for assembly. Finding a good workspace is also important. The headlight trim pieces consist of 4 bolts, which are all the same. Then the headlight trim rings, also consisting of 4 bolts. Finally, the buckets with 4 bolts in each. Each bolt is unique to its partnered part, so keep them together. Headlight adjustment bolts need to be loosened but not removed. Now we will start drilling holes in the headlights and hacking away at the grille. In order to create a hole, use a diamond tip hole saw. Use water as a lubricant and not oils. Oils will dirty up the headlights and your hands. We want to keep our workspace as clean as possible, so avoid those contaminants. Here you see a drill bit in the middle. I thought it would help with starting a cut, but all it did was make it worse. The back of the headlights are glass, so be careful about how much pressure you put. Here is a helpful tip my father gave me.
Yeah, do then is I need to, that's exaggerated. When I'm on there and I think I'm flush, I need to then rock it. Just like when you're doing the DA center, you start to go up on it.
My father is explaining that when drilling a hole through the back of the headlight, make sure your depth is equal around the circle you're cutting. On one side, you could be cutting lower than the other, creating a high side. So make sure to be patient, because cracking one of these headlights can leave your wallet dry. Personally, I did not like the look for the body mount plate at the bottom of the grille. Taking it off, I use a 40 grit cutoff wheel. When grinding, make sure that nothing around you is flammable or this will happen. Let's get on to cleaning and sanding. Basic tools such as a hose with water, an SOS scrub pad, 320 grit sandpaper or whatever combo you have, and a towel will do the trick. SOS can be used on glass, as it does not scratch like sandpaper. It's impossible to see the scratches created unless SOS was used on the same glass surface more than 1,000 times. Onto the turn signals, I used Meguiar's all-purpose cleaner with a boar's hair brush to clean. Then I followed it up with water. Use the hose to blast water inside and out of the turn signals. Now that everything is clean, including the grille, you can begin to wet sand. Because of limited supplies, I'm using a 320 grit sandpaper to start off the headlight trim pieces. Sand the sides that are seen when looking at the grille. You do not have to sand the back sides. I don't recommend using a sand block for the headlight trim pieces, but I do recommend using it when sanding the grille. The Jeep I got the grille off of was in an accident. I had to grind some sharp metal edges off, also to follow up the cut my father made on the body mount. After grinding, I sanded the grille using a 320 grit sandpaper. On the corner of the grille, there's a really deep scratch. This will lead into step 4 if you need any body work. Now on to bodywork. These are the products I'll be using. Duplicolor Grease and Wax Remover, Duplicolor Acetone, Bondo Body Filler, Bondo Glazing Spot Putty, and the hardener that comes with the filler. I would suggest using a paper mixing board instead of a metal mixing board. I'll be using 80 grit sandpaper, then I'll bump back to the 320, after applying Bondo body filler and sanding off the low and high spots. Follow up with Bondo's glazing spot putty. This putty fills the scratches that the 80 grit sandpaper left behind. Apply in a thick coat. It does not have to be applied over body filler. Any micro scratch or minor pitting is welcome for Bondo's glaze spot putty. After Bondo's glaze spot putty is applied, wet sand it off using a 320 grit sandpaper. Now we are ready to prep for paint. I accidentally used acetone on the plastic, which is completely fine, but if you use filler or a glazed spot putty, do not use acetone on the surfaces. For no harm, use Duplicolor grease and wax remover. Wipe down all surfaces where the paint will be applied. Having a clean surface will allow for the paint to lay better. These are the paints I'll be using. First, we have Rust-Oleum's Automotive Primer. Second, we have Rust-Oleum's Gloss, Paint and Primer. Third, we have Krylon's Rust Protector. But for less confusion, let's start off with Rust-Oleum's Automotive Primer. When looking for an automotive primer, make sure you get one that says it's wet sandable. This is a flat paint, allowing you to see all the imperfections when the first coat is applied. After my first coating, I noticed many scratches in the metal, so I sanded it back down with a 320 grit, then applied a second coating of Bondo's glazed spot putty. If you had to wet sand the grill back down, apply Duplicolor's wax and grease remover again. This will not affect the primer. Wait for it to dry and apply your second coating of primer. This is optional, but you can paint the back of the grill in whichever order you'd like. Spin as least amount of time on the back, as it will be up against the wall. For this, I used Rust-Oleum's Gloss Black. If the grill meets your satisfaction, you are ready to apply paint. I'm using Krylon, which I don't recommend. It was an old can I wanted to get rid of. Next grill will be in a satin. I use Rust-Oleum's Semi-Gloss Clear Coat. You can use any clear coat you want. The headlight trim rings can be an opposing color, but I want it to stay neutral. With all that out of the way, reassembling the grill is the next step. Getting the turn signals in was easy enough. Make sure they're in the right way. Both signals have a tab that goes through a slot at the top of the hole. Adjusting the headlight was a struggle. Before putting on any bolts, put the headlight in the bucket, then set the retainer over the headlight. Finally, set the trim piece on and see if it's adjusted correctly. After that, we are ready to install the lights. On all our grills, we use Dara's clip lights. It has 5 bulbs on a strand. Here I'm going to show you how I routed the wire. Starting where the plug meets the outlet, we're going to go up to the passenger side headlight. Now that we're at the passenger side headlight, in order to fit the bulb in, make sure you bend this tab back. You can use an adjustable wrench or you can use a hammer. But when using a hammer, make sure that the bucket is outside the grill so you don't create any scratches within the metal. Going from the passenger headlight down to the passenger turn signal, I fish it through this hole right here, put a zip tie in order to keep the wire up tight, and you guys can fit the bulb in while the turn signal is in. It is much easier if it's out and you put the light in
and then fish the turn signal through. Moving on, I zip tied the wire to the bottom of the grill and made sure this bulb was in the middle of the grill, not on the side, perfectly in the middle, because we have 5 bulbs in total. Same thing on this side, I zip tied. We're gonna follow it up to the driver's turn signal. I put a zip tie right here and right here, again, to keep the wire up tight. Same thing, we come up through this hole and over to the driver's headlight. Again, bent the tab, make sure you do that.
Now that the lights are installed, we can see how they look when the lights are off. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Also, hit that like button. It's also free. In total, it took me around 5 hours to complete the grill. If you decide to take off the body mount plate and have to do body work, that will cut into your time significantly. Also, I'm counting the hours I put in the work, not counting the time in which product was drying. The grill was purchased for $60. That included everything like headlights and turn signals and the buckets. So everything you saw in the video, that was included within the purchase. Basic resources such as cutoff wheel, spray paint, body filler, all-purpose cleaner, acetone, wax and grease remover, water, sandpaper, SOS scrub pads, and towels were used in this video. You guys can find all these products at your local stores, so have fun and use whatever you'd like. My name is Cody Hicks, and thanks for watching.